What a man truly seeks to feel whole isn't someone who simply pleases him. It's a woman who helps him find himself. A woman who, without trying, awakens in him the feeling of having arrived home. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to become that kind of woman. Not through forced seduction or trying to be liked, but by tapping into your true inner power. You're going to understand, step by step, what it is that sparks in him that deep desire to stay, to respect you, and to see you as his only choice. This is an emotional transformation that starts in you today and ends by leaving a lasting mark on him. So as I always ask, give this video a like and subscribe. It's totally free for you, and it supports me a lot. And if this resonates with you, share it with someone you know it could help too. All right, let's begin. The woman who doesn't complete him, but wakes him up. A lot of women have been told they should be the missing piece. Their partner's other half, their home, their refuge, their everything. But what nobody explained is this. A man isn't looking for someone to complete him. He's looking for someone to awaken him. And that changes everything. Because when a woman tries to complete a man, she becomes his crutch, his relief, his emotional support. And while that may sound beautiful, deep down, it dims him. It feeds him, but doesn't elevate him. It soothes him, but doesn't challenge him. It gives him company, but doesn't transform him. On the other hand, when a woman shows up with her own energy, with awareness, with grounding, with presence, she doesn't become his need. She becomes a mirror. And that mirror doesn't say, "I'm here to fill you up." It says, "Take a look at yourself and dare to evolve." That's what truly touches a man's soul. Because even if he doesn't say it, even if he hides it, even if he himself isn't aware of it, there's a void that isn't filled with affection, but with emotional confrontation, with feminine truth, with subtle strength. And when you come from that place, when you don't shrink yourself to be liked, when you don't mold yourself so he'll stay, but instead stand whole in front of him, you force him out of his emotional comfort zone. And that's where true desire begins. Not sexual desire, not the thrill of conquest, but the desire to be near you. Because near you, he feels more like himself. That's what Laura experienced, a 57-year-old woman. After years of trying to be enough for men, she finally realized the issue wasn't her generosity. It was her disconnection from herself. Every time she gave too much, it came from a fear of not being chosen. And by doing so, she stopped being a mystery. She stopped inspiring growth and became just a response to his emptiness. But when she shifted her energy, when she started showing up without trying to fit in, when she became presence without apology, a man she thought was long gone came back. He didn't come back because she chased him. He came back because her absence felt like the lack of something that challenged him to grow. And that's what a man is unknowingly looking for. A woman who doesn't validate his comfort, but who activates his evolution. Do you see how deep this is? The feminine has the power to hold, but also the power to confront. And that confrontation, when it's without violence, when it's rooted in self-love, when it's clear, it wakes a man up from his emotional autopilot. That's why what he's really looking for isn't a woman who matches his ego's desires. It's a woman who resonates with what his soul needs. And that has nothing to do with your body, your age, your past, or how good, attentive, or sweet you are. It has to do with your emotional frequency when you stand before him, with how you hold yourself, how you speak to yourself, with whether you need him to see you, or whether you've already seen yourself. Because a woman who has chosen herself, who no longer needs to be anyone's other half, who has become whole for her own sake, is the only one capable of awakening in him that secret longing for real connection. And here comes a hard truth. You're not unforgettable because of what you give. You're unforgettable because of what you awaken. And if you don't awaken anything in him, even if you give him the moon, he'll still walk away. Because masculine energy doesn't stay where it feels comfortable. It stays where it feels called, where it feels challenged, where it feels expanded, where it's seen for who it is, but also for who it could become. And only a whole woman can offer that. So stop asking yourself how to make him like you. Stop wondering whether you're doing enough. Ask yourself this instead. Am I awakening him or just calming him? Am I propping up his ego or activating his soul? Am I his refuge or his calling? Because that's everything. The woman he remembers forever isn't the one who gave the most. It's the one who didn't try to complete him, but helped him find himself. Stick around because in the next part, I'm going to reveal the exact part of the masculine soul that only a specific kind of feminine energy can awaken, and how to access that level without ever chasing him. What awakens his inner beloved archetype? He doesn't know how to explain it. He's not consciously looking for it, but when it appears, he recognizes it instantly, even if it's hard for him to accept. I'm talking about that exact moment when a woman awakens something in him that none of his conquests, pleasures, or experiences ever could before, the archetype of the inner beloved. And this isn't poetry. This is deep psychology. Carl Jung explained it clearly. Just as every woman carries within her an unconscious image of the masculine, the animus, every man carries within him a symbolic image of the feminine, the anima. And this anima has a face, a voice, a form. But not just any woman represents her, because this isn't about physical appearance or being agreeable. It's about a specific emotional frequency, a vibration that touches his soul beyond mere desire. And when a woman embodies that vibration, even if he doesn't understand it, even if he can't name it, his emotional system is shaken. Something inside him is activated. And here's the important part. That doesn't happen with the woman who tries hard to be liked. It happens with the woman who simply lives in her truth. Because the anima doesn't appear through someone who adapts. It's revealed through someone who inhabits herself. And that's why, when you start living from your authenticity, when you no longer fake calm just to avoid scaring him off, when you stop exaggerating sweetness so he won't leave, when you no longer imitate what others do, but express yourself from your core, you begin to reflect to him that feminine figure living inside him. And that's when the impact happens. Because he no longer sees you as just another woman. He sees you as something both familiar and unknown, as an emotional memory he didn't know he had, as a sense of home that he can't find anywhere else. That's what James felt, a 49-year-old man, when he met Margaret, a 60-year-old woman who made no effort to impress him. She didn't talk too much. She didn't ask where he was. She didn't demand explanations. She was simply there, present, aware, with a gaze that didn't demand anything, but somehow pierced right through him. And he didn't understand why he kept thinking about her, even though they'd only spent a few afternoons together. Why did he remember her even when he was with other women? Why did his mind keep returning to the feeling Margaret had left behind, without even trying, until finally it clicked? It wasn't Margaret who had captivated him. It was the inner image she had awakened inside him. She had reflected him. She had made contact with something sacred in his unconscious. And that doesn't fade. Because a man might resist commitment. He might pull away. He might distract himself with easy pleasures. But when someone touches his anima, when someone mirrors the inner image he didn't even know he was carrying, that experience becomes a longing. And longing turns into a search. And the search, if he never finds it again, turns into nostalgia. And that's where you become unforgettable. While others try to win him over through ego, through physical attraction, through strategy, you simply resonate with who he is at his core. And that's something no algorithm, no seduction tip, no emotional tactic can replicate. Because you're not pretending to be that. You are that. And by being it, you activate him. And by activating him, you confront him with what he hasn't yet developed. And by confronting him, he desires you without even understanding why. So, if you want to awaken that deeper part in him, stop looking for formulas to attract him. Start embodying yourself. Stop speaking just to be heard. And start speaking only when there's something real to say. Stop looking to be seen and start seeing with intention, with truth, with presence. Stop doing to be valued and start existing from your truth, with or without his validation. Because the feminine archetype he's searching for isn't represented by the woman who tries harder, but by the one who no longer needs to be chosen. And there's the key. When you become the woman who has already chosen herself, who already owns herself, who already validates herself, then and only then do you become the one capable of reflecting his inner beloved. And that's what no man ever forgets. Stay with me, because in the next part, we're going to talk about the silent mistake that completely shuts down that connection. A mistake many women make, even with the best intentions. If you don't see it in time, you could be giving your all and still not awaken anything. The mistake of giving too much without being yourself. There's something happening quietly, an invisible dynamic that sabotages true attraction, even when you feel like you're doing everything right. And it's this: you're giving so much that you're erasing yourself. And no, this isn't about how much love you offer, or how available you are, or even how noble your intentions might be. The real problem isn't that you give too much, it's where you're giving from. You're giving from a disconnection with yourself, from a rush to be approved of, from an urgency to be seen, from a void that convinces you that if you just give more, maybe this time, he'll stay, but he won't. Because the masculine soul doesn't respond to sacrifice, it responds to mystery, to individuality, to coherence. And if what you're offering doesn't come from your center, but from your anxiety, he can sense it. Even if he can't explain it rationally, something inside him shuts down. Because when a woman gives from lack, her offering carries weight, and what feels heavy gets avoided. That's exactly what happened to Natalie, a 61-year-old woman. For years, her relationships were just emotional loops disguised as love. She cooked, she adapted, she forgave, she gave space, she justified herself. And still, they left. She couldn't understand it. She'd say, "How is it possible that being so good, they still leave me?" Until a therapist told her something that broke her open. "You've been so good, you've made yourself disappear." And in that moment, everything clicked. The problem wasn't her giving. It was that in trying to be the perfect partner, she had stopped being herself. She had become a shadow of what the other person needed. And a shadow, and no matter how tightly it embraces, has no shape. And what has no shape leaves no trace. Here's the paradox. The more you betray yourself to be liked, the less interesting you become. The more you give without inhabiting yourself, the less his unconscious is drawn to you. The more you mold yourself around him, the more your potential echo fades. Because real desire isn't born from someone who's always there. It's born from someone who is firmly rooted in herself. So if you feel like you're doing everything, but still not awakening him emotionally, pause and ask yourself this: am I doing this out of love or out of fear of losing him? Because there's a fine line, and if you cross it, you'll lose him anyway. But worse, you'll lose yourself. And there is nothing more unsexy to the masculine soul than a woman who's disconnected from her own center, all in the name of a love that's consuming her. So how do you avoid falling into that pattern? Here's the practical how-to. First, learn to hold your energy without needing immediate return. When you do something for him, do it because you want to, not because you're waiting for a specific reaction. Constant expectation dulls feminine energy. Second, scale back what you give until what you do offer has roots. It's not about how much you do, but where it's coming from. One honest, grounded gesture is worth more than 100 anxious actions. Third, check in with yourself after every interaction. Do you feel alive? Do you feel like you? Or do you feel drained and blurry? That answer tells you everything. Fourth, reclaim small habits that bring you back to you. Listen to your inner voice, return to your spaces. Stop adjusting every move to his reactions. Because the more you inhabit yourself, the more magnetic you become. And the more you disappear in him, the faster he'll stop seeing you. And here's a raw, liberating truth. If you have to disappear for him to love you, then it's not love. It's dependence in disguise. The woman who becomes unforgettable is the one who, even while loving deeply, never stops choosing herself. And that is the kind of presence that stays. That's the woman who, when she walks away, leaves an echo that no one else can replace. Now, if all of this is stirring something inside you, if you've already felt more than once that you lost yourself for love, don't blame yourself. Just stay with me, because what comes next will reveal the kind of bond that sparks the deepest desire in him, without having to control him, chase him, or change him. And once you understand that, you'll know how to love without ever disappearing again. The kind of bond that grounds him without controlling him. A woman can either become the emotional center of a man's world or the prison of his emotions. And the difference is so subtle, many women don't see it until it's too late. The masculine soul has an inner need, one often hidden even from himself. He wants to feel held but not controlled. He wants to feel connected but not invaded. He wants to feel a woman close, not emotionally chained by her. And that's the paradox, because many women believe that to build connection, they have to be constantly available, offering opinions, correcting, guiding, saving, but they end up triggering the exact opposite, his desire to run, not out of malice, not out of ego, but because masculine energy can only expand where it doesn't feel judged, pushed, or trapped. That's what Lucy, a 63-year-old woman, came to understand after a relationship that seemed perfect at first, until he started pulling away. She couldn't make sense of it. She gave him love. She showed interest. She asked how he was feeling. She told him what was good for him. She was always there to support him. Until one day he said something that left her frozen. "I feel suffocated, like I have to ask for permission just to breathe." It wasn't that she was controlling him in a literal sense, but her energy was so focused on managing the relationship, on making sure everything was okay, on keeping him close, that without realizing it, she had turned him into her emotional project. And no man, consciously or unconsciously, wants to be that, because the masculine soul comes alive through freedom, not supervision. And here's the truth. A man stays where he feels free, but emotionally touched, not where he feels examined, corrected, or needed. So how do you create a bond that grounds him without controlling him? How do you become a presence so centered that being with you stabilizes him, balances him, motivates him to focus, without making him feel emotionally trapped? Let me be clear. 1. Stop being the radar of his emotions. You don't need to ask him constantly what he's feeling. The woman who has an impact isn't the one who predicts everything. She's the one who stays rooted, even when he retreats. Your stability is what attracts him most in moments of chaos. 2. Trust your vibration more than your words. When your emotional field is clear, you don't need to force him to speak, to react, or to reassure you. Your presence brings order without pressure. There's nothing more magnetic than a woman at peace with herself. 3. Be the center, not the emotional police. Don't explain to him how he should love you. Show him how you love yourself. An emotionally intelligent man won't respond to what you say. He'll respond to how you carry yourself. 4. Let go of the need to be present in every part of his life. When you become the center of your own life, you automatically become something he wants in his. But when you insert yourself into his without being anchored in yours, you become a burden. Here's a line that stings but sets you free. If he feels you need to control him to feel okay, he'll never feel like he can grow with you. Because the masculine soul expands in environments where there's order, but free order. Where there's direction, but not imposition. Where there's firm energy, but not invasive energy. And even if it seems difficult, that's a dance you can learn. When you become a woman with center, not because of what you do, but because of how you hold yourself, how you regulate your energy, how you release the need to direct him. He starts to emotionally orbit you without knowing why, because something in you doesn't chase him, but calls to him, doesn't push him, but realigns him, doesn't demand from him, but elevates him. And that's where a real bond is born. Not one of dependence, not one of control, but one where he feels more like a man because he's with you. Not because you make him feel that way, but because with you, he sees himself more clearly. He feels more focused, more authentic. And when you reach that place, you'll never need to beg for his attention or chase connection or worry if he's pulling away. Because no one walks away from where their soul feels most whole. Now that you understand this truth, I want to take you to the final level. Because there's a kind of woman who doesn't just impact a man, doesn't just bond with him, she becomes part of his emotional destiny. And that woman isn't built from ego. She's embodied through an internal decision. And that's exactly what I'm going to reveal next. The woman who becomes destiny, not just an option. An option can be good. She can be beautiful. She can be enjoyable, even valuable. But an option is always that, interchangeable. A destiny, on the other hand, is inevitable. And what's inevitable can't be compared, can't be replaced, can't be forgotten. And if you've ever wondered why some women seem to leave a mark on certain men that no one else ever does, even if they weren't the youngest, the most physically stunning, or the most agreeable, it's because they never offered themselves as an option. They became destiny. Not out of arrogance, not by playing games with their absence, not through emotional manipulation. They did it by becoming unmovable within themselves. And that has an irreversible effect on a man's soul. Because when a woman inhabits her life with that kind of depth, when her inner world is that well-ordered, when her connection to the divine, to the symbolic, to the real is that strong, the masculine unconscious registers her as a point of no return. It's as if something in him silently whispers, after her, no one else feels the same. That's what Daniel experienced, a 54-year-old entrepreneur. After a lifetime full of romances, travel, and intense experiences, he met Claire, a woman 10 years older than him who wasn't looking for anything. Not a relationship, not an adventure, not validation. She was just there, living her life with her simple routine, her calm gaze, her ability to be with him without ever abandoning herself. And Daniel, who usually lost interest quickly, began to feel something he'd never felt before. Not anxiety about losing her, but certainty that his soul had already been marked. Claire didn't force anything. She didn't demand clarity. She didn't try to impress. She simply showed up as she was, intimate with herself, unbothered by noise, present without urgency. And in that emotional space, so different from what he'd known, he started to want to stay, not because she trapped him, but because he realized he couldn't compare her to anyone. And that's the truth. A woman becomes destiny when no other emotional reference point can replace the impact she's had. And that is built from the inside out. It's not about repeating affirmations. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's about building such a solid relationship with yourself that you no longer need him to choose you to feel worthy. And from there, from that energetic independence, from that vibrational coherence, you emit a signal that only prepared souls can receive. And when he receives it, he may not understand it, but he feels it. And even if he pulls away, even if he doubts, even if he tries to replace you, nothing else feels the same. Because the woman who becomes destiny is not defined by how much she pursued him, but by how deeply she chose herself, how firmly she stood, how fully she became her own emotional home. And that's not arrogance. That's emotional mastery. Because when you are a home to yourself, you don't need to build one for him. And that disarms him. It stirs something in him. It forces him to look at you with a different lens. No longer as the woman who could be there, but as the woman who must be there if he wants to evolve. And if you reach that level, you'll never again compete for a place in his life, because your very presence will confront him with a life decision. It won't be, do I want her or not? It'll be, am I ready to rise to what she represents? Or am I going to keep running from what could transform me? And if he's not ready, you'll know. And you'll let go without breaking. Because you weren't born to be an option. You were born to be destiny, and anyone who doesn't see that doesn't deserve you. The original wound that disconnected you from the destiny woman who still lives inside you. It wasn't your fault. It wasn't something you chose consciously. You probably don't even remember it clearly. But at some point, something inside you broke. And from that moment on, you started to fragment. Not because you were weak, not because you lacked love, but because you learned that being yourself wasn't safe. You molded yourself. You adapted. You became what others needed you to be. So they wouldn't leave. So they wouldn't get angry. So you wouldn't be abandoned again. So you wouldn't have to feel that same pain one more time. And the worst part? You started believing that was maturity. That was love. That was being good. But what it really was disconnection. And that disconnection is what's keeping you today from feeling whole. It's what sabotages your magnetism without you even realizing it. It's what makes you attract what doesn't choose you and repel what you actually could sustain. Because until that wound is healed, you'll keep relating to others, not from your center, but from your lack. And now I want you to see it clearly. That wound is not your enemy. That wound does not define you. That wound was the test. But now it can be the doorway. Carl Jung said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And that is exactly what I'm asking of you now. Stop resisting your pain. Start seeing it for what it truly is. The secret code that contains your wholeness. Because that destiny woman you dream of becoming, the one who leaves a mark effortlessly, who stands her ground without fear, who walks forward without begging, she already exists inside you, but she's trapped right where you broke, and that's where you need to go. Just like Tess did, a 59-year-old woman who spent her entire life trying not to be a burden. As a little girl, she learned that her mother had no space for her sadness, that if she cried, she'd be ignored, that if she asked for something, she'd be seen as a problem. So she learned not to feel, to put others first, to silence her emotions just to be accepted. And she carried that same pattern into her romantic relationships for decades. Until one day her therapist said something brutal. You don't know who you are without your need to be useful. That sentence shattered her, but it also woke her up. She realized her power didn't lie in giving more, in healing others, or in earning love. Her real power was in returning to herself, to that silenced little girl who was still waiting to be seen. Tess began a journey of reconnection with her inner voice. At first it was uncomfortable. She cried. She felt empty. She felt angry at all the love she had given away from the wrong place. But then something shifted. She became more selective, more grounded, more serene. And without even trying, she started attracting different people, different men, different situations, because she was no longer vibrating from need. She was vibrating from integrity. And that is what you can begin to do today. Here's how. 1. Identify where you broke. You don't need to relive the trauma. Just observe yourself. When do you feel you shrink to be liked? Where does your voice fade? Where does anxiety begin? There's your clue. 2. Speak to your broken self. Yes, speak to her. Visualize her. Ask her what she needed at that moment and start giving it to her yourself today. Validation, tenderness, space, boundaries. 3. Honor your new identity. Every time you choose yourself, every time you set a boundary, every time you say no to what used to drain you, you're recovering that destiny woman, and she will thank you with a whole new life. Because healing isn't about becoming invulnerable. Healing is gathering all your parts so you can love from wholeness, not from a wound. And when that happens, something in you changes. Your voice changes. Your silence changes. Your energy field changes. And that's felt. That becomes irresistible to a man who's ready to see you. So don't fear looking at your wound, because that's the key. And if you can integrate that pain, no one will ever make you doubt your worth again. Now get ready, because to close this process, I'm going to give you a final reflection. Not a summary, but an emotional mantra that will change the way you love forever. It was never about becoming perfect or ticking the invisible boxes of what a man says he wants. It was never about giving more or sacrificing more or fixing someone so they'd choose you. What he's truly been seeking was to feel you, your unfiltered essence, your presence free of anxiety, your love without you abandoning yourself. Because when you are whole inside, you become his mirror, his test, his catalyst, and sometimes his deepest confrontation. That's where the alchemy happens. When you stop trying to figure out how to please him and start remembering who you are without needing to be validated. It doesn't matter if your past is filled with stories that didn't work. It doesn't matter if they told you it was too late. It doesn't matter if you were always the one who waited, who gave too much, who ended up broken. Today you can choose to be different, not to attract him, but to come back to yourself. And from that inner wholeness, you'll see everything change. Because the woman who completes herself doesn't try to fit into his world. She makes him want to be part of hers. Leave me an affirmation in the comments if this touched you. I am not an option. I am the place where his soul wants to stay. Keep that phrase because it's your reminder of who you are. Your new story begins with you, and I promise, this time it will be unforgettable. And if this message resonated with you, leave your powerful like, subscribe, and be sure to hit the bell so you don't miss anything. But above all, don't leave just yet. There's so much more waiting for you. Dive into the other videos here on the channel and keep expanding your energy and your power. I'll see you in the next video.